Okay, so we are live this evening for really the second event in a series that we're calling a Civic Education event, just really to highlight all the work that our City of Rockford staff does, and also make people more educated on what our City of Rockford staff does and what we don't do, what we're in charge of, and maybe what we're not in charge of. Areas of our focus and the expertise of our staff. We are really fortunate tonight to have a number of awesome speakers from our Human Services Department that you think of a year that we've needed a Human Services Department and one that's probably truthfully understaffed for the amount of work that they accomplish every single day is this group. So we are fortunate to have them. As we wait for a couple more people to sign on, I do just want to take the opportunity to tell those who have signed on a couple of neat things that have taken place this week. So I think we've had a lot of really good news this past week in the City of Rockford. One item just last week at City Council, our City Council unanimously passed a development agreement with a company called LiHi Networks to develop a citywide fiber optic network system throughout the city. Under the agreement, the city will allow access to LiHi to use the right-of-way to which they'll will pay for and install this fiber optic underground. And we are really excited about it. We hope that this will help bridge that digital divide that I think certainly has been illuminated this year throughout the pandemic. Second thing I want to touch on is a great announcement by Amazon to fill 140,000 square feet in the vacant building, which is the Bonton Distribution Center up on North Main on the northwest side of the City of Rockford. It's actually at 4650 Shepherd Trail. This is a really awesome development that we've partnered with Amazon and Phoenix investors to bring to our community. It's about 200 employees and 200 new jobs to our city. Two other things I want to mention. We are seeing right now increases in COVID cases. We're seeing increases in our positivity rate, and we are seeing increases in hospitalizations, but also the severity of those cases that are being in the hospital, the number of people who are really in tough shape as they're in the hospital. So I just want to take this opportunity to say two quick things. One is we are opening a second vaccination site. It opens tomorrow. It'll be open at New Zion Missionary Baptist Church. It is appointment only. You have to register to get an appointment, and you can register two ways. One is going on www.wchd.org. That's Winnebago County Health Department's website, and you can register. Or if you're having limited internet access, you can also call the COVID hotline number, and that is 815-319-6705. We have more tools today than we had in previously as we fought this global pandemic. So please, if you're watching this, make sure that you're washing your hands regularly, make sure that you're wearing a face covering, make sure that you're practicing social distancing, and please register for the vaccine. Last thing I would mention is today I had just this awesome opportunity to attend Ingersoll Machine Tools as they broke ground for the new Giant Magellan Telescope. Just an awesome project. It's an 1,800-ton telescope. And to think that it's being built right here in the City of Rockford is phenomenal. As I was there, I also saw other great work by Ingersoll and their phenomenal team of employees. I got to watch the second largest 3D printer in action. And not only do they have the second largest one, but they also built the number one largest one in the entire world. So we just have amazing companies who do great stuff because we have such good people working at them. So enough of me talking. I am really excited tonight that we have several members of our Human Services Department and team members here with us tonight. I want to just take a moment and introduce everyone to Anqunette Parham, who is the director of the Human Services Department. Anqunette had the absolute luxury of being with the City of Rockford about 6 to 8 days before the global pandemic hit. And as I mentioned earlier, we have an amazing team at the city, especially in Human Services Department. And thank God they were ready and working overtime, working long hours to make sure that all of our citizens got the help that they needed. But we were fortunate to have the leadership of Anqunette. Can't think of a more difficult time to enter a department such as Human Services than a week before a global pandemic hits your community and hits our country and world. But Anqunette has tremendous experience. She has a law degree. She most recently was working at Collins Aerospace, and we are fortunate to have her as part of the City of Rockford team. So thank you, Anqunette, and I'll let you introduce the rest of the team.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening to everyone in the city. Hopefully you can hear me all okay. You all can hear me okay. Yes, so we're very excited to be here to talk about our Human Services Department and the things that we do in this community. Like the mayor said, this past year has just been absolutely breathtaking with regards to what we've had to do and the number of people that we served. One of the good things, though, is that Human Services was not new to this in terms of serving people and helping to address housing stabilization and address food insecurity. We're not new to this, we're true to this. So Human Services has been in this work for a long time. So we were prepared and well situated to respond to the community's needs in that regard. So I want to take a moment and introduce some of the managers on my Human Services team. Human Services is actually divided into like 2 different departments, essentially. We've got our Head Start division, which folks will learn more about later. But tonight we're focusing on our Community Services division. So I have some of the managers from the Community Services division here with me tonight to talk some more about their programs and the excellent work that they're doing. We have Martha Strasser, who is our manager for our energy assistance programs. We've got Christopher Greenwood with us. He is the Community Health and Prevention Coordinator. And then we also have Angie Walker, who is our Homeless Services Coordinator. So we've got our dynamic leadership team here from Community Services. And these are the folks that help make sure that we get the work done. So all of the forms of assistance that are flowing out of our department, these folks are leading those teams. They are a phenomenal bunch. And I'm so glad that they're here with me today to highlight this work that we do that's so critical.
Awesome. Thank you, Anqunette. Thank you, Angie, Martha, and Chris, for being with us tonight and taking some residents' questions. So we have a list of questions that's been submitted. And those who are watching, if you do have questions, pop them in the chat and we will work to address those as quickly as we can. So one of the first questions that came in, and we've heard quite a bit, you have the Rockford Human Services Department, then you also have this Community Action Agency. And I'm just going to add to this. We have the City of Rockford. You have taxpayers in Rockford who are like, well, why are we helping folks all the way over in Boone County? And why are we doing certain work throughout the entire Winnebago County? Can you help address the Community Action Agency, what it is, why we work in Boone and Winnebago County, not just within City of Rockford limits?
Gladly. So the designation as a community action agency actually came about from some legislation that was created in 1964 to address poverty and to do poverty mitigation throughout the country. So what happened as a result of that is that all 50 states developed infrastructure that included these community action agencies to address poverty within their communities. So again, this started back in 1964. So this has been going on for many decades. And essentially what it is at the federal level, there is funding that comes through the Community Services Block Grant. And so that funding is divvied up to the states, and then states distribute those funds throughout community action agencies within their state's boundaries. So for us, as the Community Action Agency, our boundaries are both Boone and Winnebago County altogether. So that is why we service both of those counties, because the funding the flow through funding from the federal government that we receive from the state of Illinois, through the Community Services Block Grant, is designated to serve both Winnebago and Boone counties. So our department is actually not supported by general revenue funds from the City of Rockford. So the taxpayers of Rockford actually support the work of the Community Action Agency through their federal taxes and not their local property taxes. So that is the reason why we serve both of those counties, because that's how that designation was set up at the state level.
Awesome. I can infer that you may welcome local tax dollars as part of your.
You got it.
I can see it in your eyes, Anqunette. So, quick question: as you talk about this community action agency, who then governs the community action agency?
So the Community Action Agency is actually governed by a Community Action Agency board. So we do have a board of directors that is what's called tripartite. So our board includes members from the public sector, so folks that are appointed from Rockford City government, from the Winnebago County government, as well as the City of Belvidere and Boone County government. Those represent the public sector. And then we also have representatives from the private sector. And we also have representatives from the communities that we serve. So very often these folks may come from neighborhood organizations, block clubs, things like that, or other types of framework within the neighborhoods that we serve, or impoverished neighborhoods, to represent their area and, you know, the communities that they live in. On the Community Action Board. So we answer to the Community Action Board of Directors. We also answer to City Council because our Community Action Agency is part of the municipality. We also answer to Rockford City Council as well. And then there's also a portion of our governance that comes from the Policy Council, which is part of the Head Start program. So there is representation on the Community Action Board from that same Head Start Policy Council as well. So I take marching orders in this department from 3 different sources. So
pretty much everyone. So that makes things kind of as clear as mud. So with this, so you have government folks who are helping govern the board. Mm-hmm. You have members of the private sector who are helping mm-hmm. govern this board. And you have those, in many cases, that may be receiving services from the Community Action Agency helping govern this board. And with all of that, they are dispersed throughout that entire region, Winnebago and Boone's, because as we know, some things may be going, impacting Rockford, let's say, and it really isn't impacting Poplar Grove at the same level. Mm-hmm. So having that broad representation is probably helpful, would you say? To your board and the work that you do?
Yes, it is helpful. And then also it means that, you know, we're able to get resources to some areas of our community that may not necessarily be getting the same level of attention as some of the things that are happening in Rockford. So we are able to, you know, respond to incidents, you know, that occur in Boone County, that occur in other areas in Winnebago County outside of the county seat of Rockford. So we do have the flexibility to be able to respond to significant events that that really create a need, an imminent need for our services all throughout both counties.
Thank you. And, you know, next question here. And again, those who are watching this, you can certainly type in questions and we will work to get to those. But one question is, and we got quite a few of these, is with the pandemic, obviously, there's been so much devastation, so much sorrow going on and struggles throughout the pandemic. And it's kind of interesting. We hear on the national level all these numbers, but here there really are like family members, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and often we know these folks who are really struggling, either because they caught COVID-19 or they caught the bad side of the mitigation measures that we had to do and loss of employment, things of that nature. What is your department, and I guess for each of you, what have you had to do to adapt and change so that you can still ensure that our residents are getting the services that they need?
So I'll start, you know, of course, first we had to look at the safety of the clients that we serve as well as our staff. So like many other agencies in the community, we had to close our doors to the public, but we were able to continue servicing people. We made special accommodations inside of our lobbies so that if folks needed access to a copying machine, they were still able to come and do that, and get copies of information or submit documents to us in order to process the assistance that they needed. At the state level, some of the rules were kind of adjusted to accommodate people. We were able to receive, documentation and pictures of documents via the cell phone and things like that that would not have been previously allowed. So there was some flexibility that was provided to us in terms of how we receive documentation from people. And again, a lot of the restrictions were actually expanded in terms of criteria for who was eligible. So for example, most programs before the pandemic, a person had to be at 200% of the poverty level. That was increased to 250% to accommodate the number of people who may have been slightly above income, but had experienced significant losses as a result of the pandemic. So those are some of the things that we had to do to adjust. And of course, working more and just really trying to be even more flexible in terms of how we were serving our clients. People were served, outside. We're going to the car, providing car side service to folks. We went the extra mile to do what we had to do to make sure that that people got services. And now I'll let the managers chime in and they can kind of speak to how some of their specific programs were helping folks during this critical time.
The LiHi program started taking telephone appointments and doing all our documentation in as many creative ways as we could figure out. We had drop boxes, texts, faxes, regular mail, email, and at different times we had our vestibule open for clients to come in and make copies and leave them there, and then we would go into the vestibule to take them out after the client had left.
Wow, thanks. It's creative stuff. Angie, do you want to tell us how you may have helped folks or had to change or adapt?
With the homeless population, there was a lot of things we did. We worked really closely with the shelters for one, both the Rockford Rescue Mission and Remedies Domestic Violence Shelter. Because of COVID, their shelter capacities were greatly decreased. So not as many people were able to get in as what they were prior to the pandemic. And then there were a couple times when unfortunately the shelters had to go on to lockdown due to positive cases, at which point nobody new was allowed into the shelters. So we had to place many homeless people in hotels for several months early in 2020. And due to the fact that we were then at shelter in place and people were supposed to be isolating and not going out and about, we had to kind of scramble to make sure those folks had food, that they had the necessities to get by. You can't tell somebody here, stay in this hotel room, but you can never leave. And not provide them food. So that was something that we had to quickly adjust and figure out. So we worked with Lifescapes and we were able to get them kind of like something similar to Meals on Wheels. And we worked with some volunteers from the Emergency Operations Center. We worked with Rockford Fire, and we made deliveries to the hotels so people had food. We also worked with Public Works to ensure that there were hand washing stations out on the streets so that folks that did live on the streets had access to wash their hands. And the other thing that we really changed during 2020 was we increased our street outreach enormously. We've always done street outreach for the homeless, but we've had staff on the streets pretty much constantly for the last year. We did have to stop transporting clients in our cars for the safety of them and our staff. But definitely we still had our staff out on the streets, talking to people, engaging, working with them to get them off the streets and into permanent housing.
That's remarkable. Thank you, Angie. Chris, anything that you want to add?
No, I think Martha and Angie summed it up. We did what we had to do. We made adjustments. We allowed our customers to make copies in the vestibule. We continued to see the people or serve the people during this time so that they would still continue to receive services.
Thanks. And kind of just my own question here to add on to this. Are there things that you've seen, either some of these changes, adaptations that you think may have actually made things easier, and things that you either know will continue post-pandemic or that you hope will continue, or maybe even new partnerships that have occurred that you're like, man, why weren't we thinking of this partnership 5 years ago, and this pandemic brought about this partnership?
Well, as far as the LiHi program and energy is concerned, we definitely will continue to do our phone appointments. We feel that we can meet more people via phone appointments than having them come to our office, and it's more convenient for them. We do miss having outreach we were doing outreach at the different police stations and community centers before COVID, and we look forward to finding an opportunity to go out into the community and do that again once some of the COVID restrictions are lifted.
Absolutely. Thanks. Any other things that you guys have found? All right. Or Angie, did you have one?
I was just going to say, I think that in some cases we learned that we were a little too strict in some areas, and we learned how we could flex certain things, but still be within the guidelines and the regulations that we have to follow.
That's awesome. Very helpful.
I would add that I think the pandemic also provided an opportunity for both divisions within human services to work together. One of the things that became more and more obvious was the needs of our Head Start families. So we were able to serve them in a different way and make some of those processes even easier for them to apply for certain types of assistance, through our LiHi program, that energy assistance, helping to ensure that our families had food. That was one of the things that we did significantly. Normally we run a summer food program, but that funding was extended to help account for all of the families that would not have food as a result of the schools being closed. And both of our divisions partnered very well to make sure that happened in the community. So that was something I was glad to see happen and look forward to seeing more of, just in terms of our alignment overall as a department and how we serve the community.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I guess switching gears a little bit away from COVID, for several years now, the City of Rockford's received national recognition for the work that your department does regarding our efforts to end homelessness. And I guess I'm going to throw a couple of questions out there, and some I just frequently hear, and some that were asked by citizens. And again, anyone who's watching can ask a question if they just put it in the chat. Tell me about the work that was done by your department to end homelessness, and really what really worked to end homelessness. The second thing is, I hear this all the time. Well, City of Rockford says they ended homelessness, but yet I saw a homeless person down the street. Can you please educate me and hopefully those watching or who will view this, what functional zero is, and how that may play a role into that perception of, well, the city says this and I see this?
Yes. So at this point, we've been certified as having reached functional zero for both veterans and chronically homeless. So that doesn't mean we have zero and we'll never have any in the future. What that means is that it's a different number for both groups, but basically the federal government has come up with this way to determine functional zero. So basically they take your 6-month housing placement numbers and they look at how many people on average you can place per month in that population. So for us, our functional zero number for veterans is 8 people. For chronically homeless, it's 3. So like I said, it's different for all the populations. They have different criteria for each population. So for us, as long as we remain below 8 homeless veterans, and 3 chronically homeless individuals, we meet that functional 0 criteria. Your goal obviously would be to be at 0. And out on chronically homeless, we are currently at 0. And at vets, I believe we're at 5 right now. Our goal every month is anytime we have new people come in, we want to have them housed within 30 days of their entering our system. So for veterans, we can generally do that. And that's why we're able to stay under that functional 0 number. For chronically homeless, we hear from a lot of people, we have this chronically homeless guy. He's been out here forever, but you say you have no people. Well, we do. But chronically homeless is a very specific definition that we go by. For a chronically homeless person to meet that definition, they have to have been homeless for 12 months consecutively, or 4 episodes of homelessness in 3 years that add up to 12 months. And they have to have a diagnosed disability by a licensed medical professional. They have to have both the time and the diagnosed disability. If they're missing one or the other, they don't meet the definition. Now, you might see people out on the streets that have been homeless for a while, but they might just not fall into that definition of chronicity. The other thing I think we see a lot of is, I know we see people outside that might look like they're homeless, or they're out wandering around, or they're hanging out at the bus stop. But just because they're out there doesn't necessarily mean they're homeless. We look at people who are literally homeless. And by literally homeless, we mean that they're in shelters, they're on the streets, or other places not meant for human habitation. If people are staying from friend's house, family member's house, they might be unstably housed or at risk of homelessness, but they might not fall into that literally homeless category. We want to focus on those that are truly homeless, no place to go, outside, in abandoned buildings. And those are the folks that we give priority to.
So this is helpful. And you mentioned a couple of things that's triggered some more questions from me. So congratulations, you're the winner. Angie, you mentioned populations, you mentioned veterans, you mentioned chronic. Are there other populations, and is Rockford working towards getting to functional 0 with those other populations?
Yes, we, on our by name list that we keep, and our by name list is literally that, a list of names of people that we know are homeless in our community. We have 5 lists. One is veterans, one is chronic. We have youth, which includes anybody 16 to 24 years old. We have families, so families with children, that would be minor children. And then we have single adults or adult couples. Those are our 5 populations that we work with.
Okay. And do you think that we're making some progress on those other 3 populations that you mentioned?
Yes. We've had a goal for a couple of years now to reach functional 0 for youth. But the youth have been a really hard population to work with. But I can tell you, like, our family list, we are probably under 10 families at this point that are on our list. We have a new family advocate, and she's amazing. And she's been getting families housed left and right. We're actually working with our partner agencies at Community Solutions with Built for Zero, and they're actually working on the newest definitions that will cover both families and youth. We're one of the very few communities that have gotten that far and that are actually focusing on populations other than chronic and veterans. So right now we feel like we've done a pretty good job. And even though the pandemic has definitely made things different, we have definitely kept at it and plugged away and gotten a lot of folks out.
Yeah, you're actually spurring quite a few other questions from folks. So congratulations again. But I would say, City of Rockford has great partners in this effort. But I think one thing that goes unrecognized often is just the amazing staff members, the human capital that the City of Rockford has. And you touched on that, but I won't name names so I don't embarrass her, but we had a staff member who was at home on a Sunday, got a phone call, I believe on her office phone, checked it while on a Sunday, just sitting at home, wasn't supposed to be working that day, just happened to check her phone, her work number, and physically got up, went out to the site, and ensured that this gentleman got the assistance that he needed, and probably saved his life because he had significant frostbite and other ailments at that time. And I believe at the time had no shoes. And we were in the midst of an incredibly cold spell, and snow was definitely all over us at that point. And so just a big thank you to all of you here, but also the entire human services team. I mean, they are really going above and beyond, and all Rockfordians should be proud of the work that they do. Couple of questions here, Angie, and if there's others that need to chime in on these, that's great. I'm going to give you one or two here at a time, so that way you can pick and choose which one you want to answer first. What does someone do when they see a homeless person? What can they do to help? That's one question. Another question, well, I'll let you answer that as I bring in some of these other questions.
Okay. We have what we call the homeless hotline. It is a toll-free, oh, there it is. That number has somebody that answers it 24/7. If you have somebody that you see outside that you're concerned about, that you think needs checked on, you can call and let us know. As I mentioned before, we do a lot of street outreach, so we generally will try to get out there right away if we can. To check on that person. In a lot of cases, we know about folks already, and they're maybe on our list already. But I like to tell people we will try to check on them, make sure they're on our list. If not, we'll get them added, and then we'll begin the process of looking for housing to connect them with.
Thank you. And Sully asked a really great question. It's good to see you, Sully, on. How do homeless citizens get access to mental health services so they can fall into your count categories?
They don't have to have a diagnosis to be on our list. We will take any person that is homeless. If we come into contact with somebody who is mentally ill, if they're not connected with services and that's something they want, we do work very closely with the Rosecrans PATH team, and we would make a referral directly to them. And in some cases, we're able to set up assessments for them or get them connected with a caseworker pretty quickly. So that's one way. If they don't want to do it, like I mentioned, we place them on our list and we start working with them anyway. If they don't have a diagnosis, they just won't be classified as chronically homeless, but we still work with them. That doesn't stop us from working with them.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think that answers Jeremy's question. He says if they haven't seen a mental health specialist, then they're not counted. No, we still, they may not be under chronically homeless, but we still are working and helping them. It's
absolutely.
We help everyone who needs the help. Couple of other questions I'm going to try to lump in just because we're getting at several of them here. Has there been an influx of homeless individuals coming from outside municipalities into the city of Rockford? And I want to add to that, Angie, because there's another question. If we see a person asking for money on the street, what's the best way that we can help them? And so are we seeing an increase from folks outside of our community? And are we seeing an increase overall, just period? If we know there are locations that they're coming from, that'd be helpful. And then what do we do when we do see them? What's the best way that we can help them?
Okay. So first of all, about the increase from people out of town, we always get a certain number of people from other places. It's always been like that. When I go to conferences and talk to other providers in other cities, they say the same thing. So, I mean, the thing we kind of have to remember is obviously we want to help our citizens first because they're our citizens. But the fact is homeless folks are just like any other American citizens. You have the right to travel. So sometimes they come here because they think that the cost of living is cheaper than in Chicago. So they're going to come here and then they'll be able to make it and run a place and whatever. And unfortunately, sometimes things don't work out. We do see people from other places, but it's not usually that many. I feel like back when we first started our coordinated entry system for the homeless back in 2015, I think we saw more people back then from out of town than we do right now. I know that with COVID and the shelters not taking people from outside of the area, I think that might have slowed things down a little bit, because a lot of shelters throughout the country said, no, if you're not from here, we can't take you because we don't know where you've been and if you could be COVID positive. And our shelters were no different. They really did not want to take people from outside. So if people called ahead, we would tell them, no, you shouldn't come here because our shelter won't take you. So I think that kind of slowed it down a little bit. As for the panhandlers at the corners, we make very frequent contact with the panhandlers that we come into contact with. We're out every week talking to them. In many cases, the folks that are panhandling are not homeless. A few of them are. And they're on our list, and we're working to get them housed. But a lot of them are not, and they're not people that want our help. In some cases, they don't even want to talk to us. We have tried. My suggestion for people, if you see them at the corner, I mean, honestly, it's really personal preference. Personally, I don't give money out to people. If you are concerned that maybe they need food or whatever, I suggest people get McDonald's gift cards or Taco Bell gift cards or whatever. And if you want to help somebody that's panhandling, if they're hungry, they would want a gift card. If you're not interested, drive on by. There's not, like I said, we go out and make contact with them. I think sometimes people ask, well, do you give them tickets? Because it's illegal. We're not the police. We can't give out tickets. So that's not something we do, but we do go out and talk to them, make contact with them. Sometimes we tell them to get out of the street because they're kind of in a dangerous position. So we obviously don't want them to get hurt or for drivers to do anything that they wouldn't want to do. So.
Thank you. And I'm not an attorney, but some folks are mentioning that it's illegal. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling that allowed for some aspects of panhandling. So our team, our legal department is reviewing it to see what could we do as a city. I would say the first thing that we do is do exactly what Angie said, get folks out there to help them. If they need the help, we want to be there to help them. If they don't want the help and they're impeding traffic and things of that nature, and they really are adamant that they're just going to be there and not accept the help, that's when we would bring it to the next level. But our first and foremost thought is help people. So we have a lot to get through, and I told you guys about 45 minutes, so I may bring the touch over, but we'll run through these as quick as I can. So at the city, we've had a big focus on helping domestic violence survivors. How many of these survivors do you help find temporary safe housing, maybe let's just say last year?
Well, I'll jump in and take that one too. I believe the number from last year was 65 that we counted. And that's just folks that we basically knew were fleeing from an active domestic violence situation that we helped to get into new locations. I'm sure we had many more in other programs, but that was the ones we got housed. Perfect.
Thank you. Next question. Do you offer energy assistance programs, and how many people do they help each year?
Yes, we do. We offer energy assistance programs called, our big one is the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, better known as LiHi. So far this year, we've assisted 9,500 people in that program. That is since July 27th. And that the 2021 program year continues through the end of May. At that time, it will close for the 2021 program year and then reopen again in late August or September. We do continue to have energy assistance over the summer in the form of ComEd Hardship, which is a program sponsored by ComEd, but administered in our office. And citizens who have not used that resource in the last 2 years would be eligible to apply for a grant of up to $500 on any past due balances that they have. And the last program we offer is Like Kits, L-I-K-E, which are provided by a joint partnership of the University of Illinois and ComEd. And these are boxes of energy efficiency aids, such as power strips, water savers, LED light bulbs, and night lights. And if anyone is utilizing one of our grant programs, they're available to them upon request. And because of the pandemic, we no longer see as many people in our office, but we do have a program set up where we will mail those out to the customers.
Thank you. That's very helpful information. Really appreciate that. A couple more questions I have here is, how does the Human Services Department improve our overall community health?
So I'll start with that and then let Chris finish. But everything we do essentially in human services addresses the social determinants of health. So all the work we do around poverty mitigation, housing stabilization, addressing food insecurity, providing prescription assistance, serving folks who are in emergency situations as a result of weather or natural disaster. All those services that we provide essentially are healthcare services, in that they are addressing the health and health outcomes of the people we serve. So really a lot of our work focuses on the social determinants of health and addressing the factors that really impact people's quality of life. Now I'll let Chris talk about some of the specific things that we do around what some of those programs have looked like. And even now, over the years, Human Services has been involved in a number of other prevention efforts around like underage drinking and youth for many years. We had programming related to that through a grant, a flow-through grant from SAMHSA. We've worked on, various aspects of youth prevention programs over the years. So we've done a lot through the years, but now we have just a few focused health programs. But again, we're looking to get a little more upstream in terms of addressing the social determinants of health. But Chris, go ahead and talk about the few programs that we have now around health and prevention.
Well, thanks, Anqunette. That was great. Some of the programs that we do have the summer food program, which we know when school's not in session, kids tend not to have access to free lunches. So we partner with various organizations within the City of Rockford, Winnebago County, and in Boone County so that children are able to get a free nutritious meal throughout the summertime. This year with COVID, it's been a little different because we've been able to do the grab and goes meals where the family can go to a specific spot, grab the meals, and go home. We also run a summer garden program where community-based organizations, neighborhood groups, schools can receive funding to grow nutritious food throughout the summer months. We also have a youth grant program that we offer every year, and that is for agencies, community-based organizations, churches, to work with children who are at risk so that they can improve their lives.
Wow, thank you. And we just went through, hopefully we went through it, a really cold winter. I'm just saying that because today was so beautiful. I don't want it to get cold again. But with the cold comes the importance of heat, which comes the importance of one's furnace in their home. Furnaces can be terribly expensive. Do we provide any assistance to those families who may need assistance with their furnace, either maintenance, repair, or brand new ones?
We do have the LiHi Emergency Furnace Program, which runs from October 1st through March 31st. So we have one more day available for people to try to get help with their furnace this year, and that will reopen again in October. We will go in and do an assessment of what is wrong with the furnace and make a correction to get it in good working order. We additionally have a weatherization program that is a more long-term, more extensive program. There is a wait list for that program, but the emergency furnace, we try to get in immediately and get remediation done as quickly as we can.
Absolutely. Thank you. I am hopeful that no one will need it, not because it's just not broken, but just because it'll be nicer weather coming forward. So a couple of other last quick questions. Can you tell me about the rental assistance program that's starting? There's a partnership between the City of Rockford and Winnebago County, about $8.3 million coming to our city or to our county. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how one could get that help?
Sure. On April 1st, the application for the Winnebago County Emergency Rental Assistance Program will go live. And the link should be on the screen shortly. But actually, you can get it. It's renthelp.wincoil.us. So folks can go to that site. The application is, I'm sorry, that's the wrong link. We didn't give you the right one, Laura, sorry. But it's renthelp.wincoil.us. And so at that particular site, and we will have links to that on the city's website, as well as the Winnebago County government website, that will be available to folks. The application is electronic, and both tenants and landlords can initiate an application within that system. The application period will open April 1st, and it will be open through April 15th. And we will repeat that cycle as funds are available each month. So the electronic portal is open the 1st through the 15th. Folks can go in, submit their applications. They will receive correspondence from the site, as well as our staff with regards to any additional documentation that they need to submit. And our goal is to have that everyone would have an answer within that month that they apply. So that's why we're accepting applications the first 15 days of the month. And then the second half of the month, all that processing will be completed. So folks should have an answer by the end of the month with regards to whether or not they qualify and the amount of assistance they'll be receiving. And that'll be, those payments will be processed by the county. Those payments are made preferably directly to the landlord on behalf of that particular tenant. If individuals have problems with accessing the internet, they can call. The phone number is 815-972-RENT in order to get assistance with completing an application if they have disabilities or any other barriers to getting online to complete that application and to have additional questions answered. So that program is we'll start again, we'll start accepting applications for that on April 1st. And we actually are still hiring. So if there are folks out here that are looking for employment, you have any experience serving as a housing clerk, please visit the workplace staffing website. The link is there. We are currently hiring for those positions. We do still have a few hires that we need to make with regards to getting that program up and running. So we're looking for some good, talented folks out there. So if someone is watching this and they need employment, please share that information, as we are still looking to hire additional people to assist in that effort. It's a lot of rental assistance that needs to be distributed in our community between now and the end of the year. So we do need additional help. And again, if folks need help, they are welcome to go to renthelp.wincoil.us in order to access that online application that will be open on April 1st.
Absolutely. And I urge everyone, if you know someone who needs assistance, please connect them to this program and initiative. Also, I think it's lost on many folks because often at neighborhood meetings, we hear the term landlord and people immediately go to someone in their head that owns hundreds and hundreds of properties. Well, the vast majority of Rockford's landlords do not own hundreds of units. They own a handful of units. And for many of them, it's their full-time job, or for some, it's all they have for retirement. And so this program is really critical, not just for tenants, but for landlords to help them get the assistance that they need for the huge number of people who have been impacted by COVID-19 and the mitigations that followed because of the pandemic. All right, I promise you guys just a couple of last questions here. We also take money that is sub-granted to community partners. What other agencies do we help support?
So we provide support to a number of agencies throughout the community. We have partnerships in place where we provide funds that support services that take place at Rosecrans, the Rockford Rescue Mission, Shelter Care Ministries. Let's see. I don't know who all of our, off the top of my head, who all of our grantees were for the Youth Services Grant. And if I'm missing some other folks, you guys can chime in and help me, but those are some of the big ones that that came off the top of my head.
Perfect. Thank you. And maybe this question goes to Chris. Chris, and if it doesn't, someone else can help us. With summer approaching, what kind of, we know we'll have a whole host of youth who are in need of food during the summertime. What programs can we expect this summer?
Right now we have 32 community partners that have agreed to be host sites for the summer food program. We will be publishing that list as time gets closer. We are hoping to have more community partners. We're not really sure what everything is going to look like. We don't know what kind of restrictions are going to be in place, but that remains to be seen. But we do plan on having the summer food program up and running. It looks like the majority of our sites are wanting to start around June 14th. We are hoping that some will start earlier, but we don't really know that. We are also exploring the possibility of having some grab and go sites in the more rural areas where they don't have immediate access to a site. We are looking into different options for that.
Thank you. And will all those sites be listed on the City of Rockford's webpage so folks know, and will that be pushed out to all the schools so that they're aware of them?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Last question I have is, what sort of education and training programs does Human Services offer?
That is a great question. We offer a variety of different trainings. As long as the school is in Illinois and it is accredited, people can come in to see us if they're interested in getting their CNA, phlebotomy, pharmacy tech, truck driving, CNC, cold forming, EKG technician, pharmacy technician, anything primarily that is in the medical field. It's a growing industry, and we know that it's going to lead to a livable wage. So all they have to do is give me a call, and we can set up a time for them to come in or do it over the phone, whichever one they're comfortable with, and see what options they have and what they want to pursue.
Absolutely. So, sorry, I kept you guys a little bit longer than I promised you.
Okay.
But just want to say, really appreciate all of your work. So a huge thank you to you, Angie, to Martha, to Chris, and to you as well, Anqunette. Honestly, you hear of all the programs, you hear the dedication that the staff have to just sincerely help other Rockfordians, even Winnebago and Boone residents. We want to help them all. And none of this is possible without you guys and without the teams that work for you. And so just a sincere thank you from me and on behalf of all Rockfordians for the work that you do day in, day out, especially during these last 13, 14 months that have been trying on each one of you personally, as it is everyone, but to go out every day finding new ways, new opportunities to help folks is really, really appreciated. So thank you. And thanks for sticking with me 8 minutes and 24 seconds longer than I promised you. So thank you so much, and really appreciate all those that joined. We will be having future civic education series coming up, and please follow us on social media so that you can be updated on the dates and times for those. And this session will be housed on the City of Rockford's Facebook page as well. So if you want to go back and listen to a specific program or you want to share this, we urge you to do that. So thank you so much. Take care.